We have to take this route. It's the only way through the pass.
That's madness. It's far too dangerous.
The avalanche.
There is something you want, something specific, something you have carried in the quietest part of your mind for longer than you have admitted to yourself. The question is not whether you want it. You do. The question is whether you have ever, clearly, specifically, out loud, declared it. Committed to it with enough precision that the part of you capable of actually pursuing it has received the instruction. Because here is the most confronting truth about the gap between where most people are and where they genuinely want to be. It is not caused by lack of talent, not by insufficient effort, not by the cruelty of circumstances. It is caused by the failure to ask. Not asking the universe, not asking other people, asking yourself. With the specific, declared, committed clarity that transforms a wish into a target, and a target into a trajectory. Here is what happens the moment you ask with genuine specificity. Something activates in the brain that was not active before. The filtering system in your mind, the network that determines what you notice from the vast flood of incoming information, recalibrates. It begins pulling toward your attention the people, opportunities, and moments relevant to what you just declared. They were there before. You could not see them before because you had not given your mind the precise filter through which to find them. Asking is not passive. It is the activation of machinery you are already carrying. But here is what most people never examine. The failure to ask is not ignorance. It is protection. If you never clearly state what you want, you can never clearly fail to get it. Vagueness is the armor the psyche builds around ambition when ambition has been hurt before. When specific desire led to specific disappointment. When the precision of what you wanted made the precision of losing it possible. The mind learns from that, and its solution, implemented automatically without your conscious agreement, is to want things in general. The general version of success. The general version of the relationship, the general version of the life that might have been possible. Because general wanting cannot be generally failed. And the psyche, which was designed to protect you from pain, counts that as a solution. It is not a solution. It is the most expensive decision most people never know they made. There's a man called Thomas, 67 years old, recently retired. By any external measure, a decent, successful, responsible man. He had worked hard for 40 years, provided for the people who depended on him, done what was expected, what seemed reasonable, what felt safe. And now, in the silence that retirement brings when the noise of obligation finally stops, he sat with a feeling he could not quite name. Not regret, exactly. Something quieter and more precise than regret. The ache of a life lived in the general direction of what he wanted, rather than the precise direction of what he had once known with absolute clarity that he wanted. He found it while going through old boxes, a notebook, 40 years old, and on the first page, in the careful handwriting of his 27-year-old self, there was a list. Not vague aspirations, specific, declared desires. The exact work he had wanted to do, the precise place he had wanted to live, the particular thing he had wanted to build, the thing that would have been entirely and unmistakably his. He had written it once, in the honesty of one specific evening when he allowed himself to want what he actually wanted. Then he had closed the notebook, placed it in a box, and never looked at it again. Never spoken those things aloud. Never pursued them with the declared, specific commitment that would have activated everything available to him. He had kept them general, safe, deniable. And 40 years had passed. The list was still achievable in the way that some things remain technically possible while also being effectively gone. What Thomas understood, sitting with that notebook open in his lap, was that he had not failed at the list. He had never truly attempted it.
because attempting it would have required asking for it, declaring it with the specific, committed precision of someone who had decided this particular thing was worth the risk of visible failure. He had chosen vagueness instead, and vagueness, as it always does, had delivered exactly what it guarantees. Not failure. The careful, comfortable,
Devastating nothing of a life that never fully declared itself. You have a list, too. Maybe it is written somewhere. Maybe it lives only in the quietest moments before sleep arrives. The question is whether you have ever declared it, or whether, like Thomas, you have been wanting it quietly enough that the part of you capable of pursuing it has never received the instruction. Now consider the supply. This is where psychology and philosophy agree on something most people's conditioning directly contradicts. The supply of what is possible in a human life is not rationed. It is not diminished by the people who arrived before you. It is not exhausted by the scale of what you want. Success is not a closed room that fills up. It is an ocean. It does not run out. The problem is never the supply. The problem is what most people bring to the supply. They arrive at the ocean of what is possible with a teaspoon, the mental and emotional container of someone conditioned to believe that large desire leads to large disappointment. That the responsible approach is to want modestly, ask minimally, and be quietly grateful for whatever arrives. And then they are quietly confused when only teaspoon quantities arrive. The container is always the limit, never the ocean. There are two requirements for asking that actually produces results. The first is intelligence, specificity. Not how much approximately, how much exactly. Not when roughly, when precisely. Not the kind of life vaguely described. The kind of life described so precisely that your brain now has a filter specific enough to actually find it. Goals become like a magnet. The more precisely you describe what you want, the more powerfully they pull you in that direction. The second requirement is harder. It is the capacity to believe that you will receive what you ask for, not with adult skepticism and its 1,000 reasonable objections, but with the uncalculating conviction of someone who has simply decided. Make plans with the precision of an adult. Pursue them with the belief of a child. Not because belief is magical, but because the absence of belief is the most efficient form of self-sabotage available to the human mind. Doubt does not protect you from failure. It guarantees it. Here is exactly what to do with all of this. 5 practices, beginning tonight. The first, tonight, write what you actually want, not the reasonable version, not the version designed to protect you from looking foolish if you fail, but the actual, specific, declared thing. How much, by when, what it looks like precisely. The specificity is not arrogance. It is the filter you are installing in your brain that will begin pulling relevant opportunities toward your attention from the moment it is written. The second, tomorrow, make one specific ask you have been avoiding. To a person whose help, access, or knowledge you genuinely need. To yourself, out loud, about what you are actually pursuing. The machinery starts the moment you ask. It does not start before. One ask, tomorrow. The third, this week, map where you are currently wanting things in deliberately vague terms. Where are you keeping goals general because the specific creates the possibility of visible failure? Name those places precisely. Vagueness there is not uncertainty. It is armor. And armor, however understandable, is what prevents contact with the very thing it was built to protect you from losing. The fourth,
For the next 90 days, read your declared want aloud every single morning. Not as ritual, not as performance. As the daily reinstallation of the precise filter that tells your brain what to find. Give the machinery the instruction every morning. Watch what begins surfacing in your life that was already there, that you had simply not yet been equipped to see. The fifth, and the one most people never examine with genuine honesty. Identify what you actually believe about receiving at the scale of what you want. Not what you think you believe, what the evidence of your life reveals you believe. Do you believe you deserve to receive at that scale? Do you believe the supply is large enough to include you specifically, with your specific background, your specific failures, your specific doubts? Because the belief system is the size of the container, and the container has always been the only actual constraint. Thomas found his notebook at 67. He spent the remaining years of his life living from it. Smaller in scope than his 27-year-old self had imagined, but specific, declared, and genuinely his. He said it was the first time in 40 years that he had felt like he was living rather than drifting. What you want is waiting, not for luck, not for conditions to improve, not for permission from a world that will never offer it unprompted. It is waiting for you to ask, clearly, specifically, with the conviction of someone who has finally decided that what they want is worth the risk of being seen to want it. Ask. The machinery is already running. It is waiting only for the instruction. Comment below. The specific thing you have been wanting in vague terms for far too long. Not the general category, the specific thing. Name it for the first time with precision. Like this video and subscribe to this channel for more powerful videos like this. See you in the next one.